You walked into the store for one thing, maybe shampoo, maybe milk, and you walked out 45 minutes later with a blender, 2 scented candles, a set of resistance bands you'll never open, and a pair of shoes you didn't need. All because there was a sign that said 30% off. And here's the strange part. It felt good. It felt like you won something. If you've ever done this, and most people have, you weren't being careless. Your brain was doing exactly what it was built to do. And in this video, we're going to unpack why. If you're new here and you like content that actually explains the way people think and behave, subscribe. Let's get into it. There's a very specific kind of behavior that happens in the presence of a sale. You see something marked down, something you weren't looking for, something you didn't know you wanted 5 minutes ago, and suddenly you're standing there seriously considering whether you need it. The product didn't change. The price changed. And that's everything. What's interesting isn't that people buy things on sale, it's that the discount itself transforms how desirable the object becomes. A jacket you walked past at full price becomes a serious contender the moment it's got a red tag on it. That's not logic, that's psychology, and it's worth understanding. Here's where most people get this wrong. They think impulse buying during sales is about greed or weakness or poor self-control. And that framing isn't fair, and it's not accurate. What's actually driving the behavior is something much more fundamental. It's called loss aversion, and it's one of the most studied, most replicated findings in the psychology of decision-making. The basic idea, developed by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, is this. The pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the equivalent thing. Losing $10 hurts more than finding $10 feels good. That asymmetry is baked into how we process risk, value, and choice. And when you see a discount, your brain doesn't see a product at a lower price. It sees an opportunity that's about to disappear. It sees something you could lose. That shift from, "Do I want this?" to, "Will I lose this deal?" is the entire mechanism. And it happens before you consciously decide anything. Layer 1. Dopamine. To understand the full picture, we need to talk about what's actually happening in the brain during a purchase. Shopping activates the brain's reward system. Specifically, it triggers the release of dopamine, the chemical associated with pleasure, motivation, and anticipation. This isn't a metaphor, it's measurable. And the key detail here is that the dopamine spike tends to be larger during the anticipation of a purchase than after you actually have the item, which means the joy is in the wanting, not the having. That's why you can feel a rush while scrolling through a sale page, and then feel strangely flat once the package arrives. The reward already happened. It happened the moment you clicked Add to Cart. What came in the mail was almost beside the point. This also explains why so many people buy things and never use them. The psychological payoff wasn't the object, it was the act of acquiring it. Layer 2. The deal is the reward. There's something else happening that often goes unnoticed. Finding a good deal registers as a separate reward, completely independent of the product itself. Consumer psychologist Jorge Barraza from the University of Southern California puts it this way. When you discover a discount, you're not just getting the product, you're also getting the feeling that you found something, that you earned something extra. The saving becomes a prize in its own right. So when you buy something on sale that you didn't need, you're not just making an irrational purchase, you're collecting 2 rewards at once, the object and the story you get to tell yourself about being smart enough to get it at that price. That's a surprisingly satisfying psychological package, which is exactly why it's so hard to walk away from. Layer 3. Emotional triggers. Now here's a layer that a lot of people recognize in themselves but don't fully understand. Impulse buying doesn't happen at random. It spikes under specific emotional conditions: stress, boredom, loneliness, feeling out of control. And this pattern has a name: compensatory consumption. The idea is that when life feels chaotic or overwhelming, Purchasing something creates a quick, clear sense of agency. You made a decision. You acted. Something changed. In a moment where many things feel uncertain, buying is one of the few things you can actually control. Retail therapy isn't just a joke. It's a real psychological mechanism, and it works, temporarily. The problem is that the emotional void that drove the purchase doesn't go anywhere. It comes back. And now you have a blender you'll never use sitting on the counter. Research consistently shows a strong positive correlation between impulsive spending and buyer's remorse. The short-term emotional relief is real, but it tends to be followed by regret, sometimes almost immediately. The purchase that felt empowering on Friday can feel like a mistake by Sunday. And yet people repeat the pattern. Because the emotional payoff in the moment is reliable, even when the long-term outcome isn't. One important finding worth noting: high emotional susceptibility, meaning how much your emotions influence your decisions, significantly correlates with increased unnecessary purchases. This doesn't mean emotionally aware people are bad with money. It means that people who feel things intensely are also people whose brains respond more strongly to the promise of relief. And sales are very good at offering that promise. Layer 4. The ideal self. There's one more psychological layer that makes this especially interesting. A lot of what we buy on impulse isn't random. It has a pattern. And that pattern often reveals the gap between who we are and who we'd like to be. You don't buy running shoes. You buy the version of yourself that wakes up early and runs 5 kilometers before most people are awake. You don't buy a cookbook. You buy the version of yourself that makes beautiful dinners from scratch and doesn't order delivery 3 times a week. Every unnecessary purchase is a small investment in a future self that may or may not show up. Marketers understand this deeply. They don't sell products, they sell identities. They sell a gap between where you are and where you want to be, and they offer the product as the bridge. When the item goes on sale, the bridge feels more accessible, less expensive to cross. So you buy it, not for today's version of you, but for the idealized version that will eventually, surely, use it. But here's where things get more complicated and more interesting. None of this happens by accident. The emotional triggers, the sense of urgency, the fear of missing out, these aren't just natural human tendencies playing out in the wild. They're being engineered. Retailers and marketers have spent decades studying exactly what psychological levers to pull and when. Price anchoring, showing you a high original price so the discounted one feels like a bargain, even if the original price was inflated. Artificial scarcity, only 3 left in stock, a countdown timer. This offer expires today. These phrases are specifically designed to activate the loss aversion response before your rational brain has time to evaluate whether you actually need the thing. Neuroscience research suggests that activating the fear of losing out tends to be more effective than focusing on what you save. Don't miss your chance to save $100 lands harder than save $100 now. Both describe the same situation. But one speaks to the part of the brain that hates losing, and that part tends to win. So when you feel that pull toward something on sale, that sense of urgency, that slight anxiety about missing out, know that feeling was put there deliberately. It was designed to reach you before you had a chance to think clearly. And this brings us to the deepest part of this whole conversation. Beyond the neuroscience, beyond the marketing tactics, there's something more human at the core of this behavior. Buying things, even things we don't need, is one of the ways people construct identity. It's one of the ways we tell the world and ourselves who we are. The brands we wear, the products we keep in our homes, the things we choose over other things, all of it communicates something. Not just status, but values, tastes, aspirations, group membership. Consumer culture has become one of the primary languages through which identity is expressed. So when something is on sale, it's not just a cheaper price. It's a more accessible piece of identity, a temporary reduction in the cost of becoming or remaining a certain kind of person. That's a surprisingly heavy thing to carry out of a store in a paper bag. So what do you actually do with all of this? The honest answer is, Understanding it doesn't make you immune to it. Loss aversion is real. Dopamine is real. The emotional pull of a good deal is real. You're not going to think your way out of millions of years of human wiring just because you watched a YouTube video. But what you can do is notice the gap. There's a specific moment between seeing the discount and reaching for your wallet where you can ask one question: what am I actually buying right now? The product or the feeling? Because the feeling is temporary, the product usually outlasts it. And the best purchases tend to be the ones made in favor of something real, not in reaction to a timer counting down on a screen. The sale was never really about the product. It was about how the product made you feel for about 30 seconds. Knowing that doesn't take the fun out of shopping, it just puts you back in the driver's seat. If this video put into words something you've felt but never quite been able to explain, drop a comment. I'd genuinely like to know what it brought up for you. And if you like content that takes human behavior seriously and actually explains it, subscribe. We do this every week. See you in the next one.